Okay, good morning, everybody. It is the Juneteenth weekend, and I am preparing my dessert for Juneteenth dinner. So, what I'm making today is a red velvet cake, and we're going to get started with it right away. So, what I'm going to add to my bowl first is 2 eggs, and my eggs are at room temperature because it says you're going to want all of your ingredients at room temperature. So we're going to put in our 2 eggs. And then remember, I said you always cream together your butter, sugar, and your eggs. That's whenever you make a cake, you always do that because that gives it the fluff. Now, this recipe I did change around a little bit. So we're going to see how it's going to come out. So I just put in 2 eggs. I put in my butter at room temperature. And then here's my sugar, which I'm going to add to my bowl. And we're going to get it beat up. So let's beat, beat, beat. So there it is, all nice and creamed together. Let me get this straight. And this is how it should look, all creamed together. So let's put that back there before I waste anything. So what I'm going to add to this now is my chocolate. And this is unsweetened cocoa powder is what it is. And what I did is I melted it in butter. And well, I stirred it up in butter in order to break down those little balls that usually are in there and to wake up the flavor of the chocolate. So I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my vinegar because yes, it has vinegar. And let's just give it a mix to try to get those mixed in. Okay, so you're going to want to take the time to scrape the sides of your bowl to make sure you're getting all of that deliciousness in there. So let's give it a scrape and give it another scrape like so. There we go. Now, whenever you're making any kind of cake, pie, whatever it may be, make it your own because it's your cake, it's your pie. You make it the way you want to make it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my buttermilk and my flour a little at a time. The thing is I want to go ahead and incorporate in my baking powder at one time. So what I'm going to do is just empty this because this little bowl is not big enough. Just going to empty this in here. And that'll enable me to add my salt, baking powder, and baking soda in there. And then what I'll do is give it a whisk just to make sure it's all incorporated, like so. Just to make sure, because you never know. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is add my flour and my buttermilk. But before I do that, I'm going to add some vanilla. I'm going to tell you, if you've never used Watkins vanilla, you're missing out because this vanilla will last you a long time because you don't have to use a whole lot of it. So I'm putting a teaspoon of vanilla. And you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to give away some Watkins vanilla. I'm going to give away a dark color. And then I have a white kind of vanilla that you can use for frosting. So let's get this all mixed. So what I'm getting ready to do is to add half of my flour and then part of my buttermilk. Now, as I said earlier, I usually like to take recipes and make them my own. So if this recipe doesn't come out, you'll know that it didn't work. So I'll have to go back to the drawing board. So let's add some of the buttermilk. And then let's just give it a little stir, only because, you know, I don't want flour all over my face, even though it would probably be funny. So let's give it a little stir just to get it kind of mixed. And then let's start. There we go. So to this, we're going to add the rest of our flour. And we're going to add the rest of our buttermilk. So let's just get all of this scraped in here. And remember, you always want to mix it with your mixer a little bit before you start to mix it so you don't have flour all over the place. Let's give it a little mix just to get it incorporated. I'll never forget the first time I did this and I had flour all over my face. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. Let's get this all mixed. Okay. So, what makes this red velvet cake is you add red food coloring. So basically it's kind of chocolate cake with red food coloring. So we're going to add 2 tablespoons of red food coloring. Let's get this. That's a lot of food coloring. I think it is. But I guess you got to turn it red, so got to do what you got to do. And when you do your cake, if you're using 2 tablespoons, this little thing right here, I don't know if that's going to work for you. Because I'm just barely getting all of it out. And that's just like this whole little thing. Okay, so we're out of red food coloring again. Okay, so let's add this in. I'm going to use my finger to make sure I get it in. And I know I'm turning my finger red, but that's okay. It'll wear off. Okay, so stir it around again just to make sure you're getting it mixed. Okay, so I have everything mixed, and I'm pretty sure this is going to yield probably a darker red cake. I don't know, it looks pink to me, but we'll see. So I have everything mixed, and then I have my cake pans that I sprayed with non-stick cooking spray. These are big cake pans, and the reason why I use these is because it's just me and Steve, and I don't like baking a lot of cake and it's, you know, left over or wasted. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and add some into this one. Basically, this would make a 2-layer cake, just putting it in this one. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then, you know what? When I was younger, my mom used to make what she called sample cakes, where she'd bake a separate little cake, and you could taste how your cake was going to be. So I'm going to say this is a sample cake right here. And then what I'm going to do is put the rest in here. And then we'll know what we're working with it. I mean, if it don't taste good, we may not want to put our frosting on it. Make sure there's no air bucket bubbles in it. And then this is our sample cake over here. And I use cooking spray because it just works just as good. Okay, so I'm going to put these in the oven. And when I come back, we're going to be taking them out. Okay, I just took my red velvet cake out of the oven. And it doesn't look red. It looks like chocolate. So we're going to go ahead, let it cool. And then we're going to give it a frosting. So it's either chocolate or red velvet, whichever one you want to call it. Okay, as you can see, I took my cake out of the pan. And as I said, these pans bake big, tall cakes. So what I'm going to do is make this into a two-layer cake. So I'm going to take a knife and I'm just going to cut through it like so. And then this gives me a two-layer cake. Oops. And it's not as a lot of cake for both of us. And I kind of cut it in half, kind of crooked, but that's okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put this cake on this plate. And as you can see, it just kind of fell off, but that's okay because I know how to decorate that up. So we're going to put this on here. Get those crumbs out of the way. Let's get our frosting started here. As I am using canned frosting. I'm not above using canned frosting, and it's just easier when you got a lot of stuff to cook. So this is our Juneteenth dinner cake, and I've got a lot to cook. So I'm just going to take some frosting, and I'm just going to put it on the middle layer. And when I put the top layer back on, that'll even it back out. So I'm not even worried about that. Get that all frosted. And it's nice and cool. Always let your cake get nice and cool. So what I'm going to do is get this frosted, and when I come back, we'll be putting it together. Okay, so we're all finished with our cake, and here it is, all ready to go. So thank you for coming with me on Exploring Foods with Smitty. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back. This was a very, very good cake. I'm not a big red velvet cake liker, but because I used butter instead of shortening in the cake, I think that really, really changed the taste. Give it a try. Make sure you check out these other videos at Exploring Foods with Smitty. That's Exploring Foods with Smitty.